Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome aboard, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everyone who cares and is concerned about wildlife and conservation. Today is day 4 in our series of our Wildlife Week celebrations. Today we have a very important person amongst us, Mr. Avinash Khemka, who is going to present to us about the magic of Mangalajodi. The title of the presentation is Magic of Mangalajodi, and you can call him the magician of Mangalajodi to sum it up. So, before we get to that, would like to welcome all our viewers both on Facebook and Instagram. We seem to have no technical glitches today, which is nice. Things are moving well, and thank you very much for all of you with your comments, and welcome you all on board to this wonderful journey to experience the magic of Mangal Jodi. Before we get to that, we have a couple of announcements to make on behalf of YPS. Number one is we have just crossed as a club 150 Best Club Awards over the past, I would say, couple of years or 2.5 years. So, which is kind of a record for a club to achieve these many in a short period of time. I congratulate each and every one of YPS's members and the salon committee and the amazing tutorship and guidance of all the folks who have helped us and our members participate in salons and achieve awards, acceptances, and bring in a lot of laurels to YPS. Having said that, we will follow through on this with some celebratory event very soon. Hopefully, this will be post COVID. It will not be virtual. We will try to see if we can have an actual session. Okay. That being said, the topic for today is not just about photography. It's also about conservation. It's also about caring for the environment, and definitely it's about how do we contribute to make our wildlife better. Okay, so that is what you can expect from today's presentation. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Mr. Satish, who is the president of YPS, to start us off along with an introduction to one of the industry stalwarts going forward. Over to you, Satish.
Thank you, Srinath. Good evening, and ladies and gentlemen, namaskara to all. It's a fantastic evening today. The fourth we are celebrating. It gives me a lot of pleasure to welcome all the ladies and gentlemen, the viewers, and the guest and star of the day, Mr. Avinash Khemka. Friends, as all of you know, that Wildlife Week is a very important program in Youth Photographic Society. And on this fourth day, we have got one of the fantastic presenter and excellent photographer, whom I am going to tell a little bit more later on. But as all of you know, we have to dedicate this excellent webinar to one of the great ornithologists of the world, the India's presentation to the world in ornithology, none other than Dr. Salim Ali. Friends, Salim Ali is one of the most important ornithologists who has given a lot of the tireless and important work that he has done in terms of birds and conservation. Uh, People can read about the Mr. Salim Ali here, but I would like to tell a little bit more than this. Friends, Dr. Salim Ali, because of his efforts, the Bharatpur sanctuary was formed. And also because of his involvement, the destruction of the Silent Valley was stopped. And the Silent Valley is one of the most important sector of Western Ghats, which is the heart of Western Ghats, you can say. That was actually it is a gift from Salim Ali to the conservation and wildlife part. And also, I have seen somewhere where Dr. Salim Ali has mentioned that bird watching should be a very, very important, hobbies for people. You should take up ornithology or bird watching as an important hobby in your life, because just think that after your retirement from your office, or after 60 years or 55 years, people tend to retire and take aram life, and then they spend the rest of their life playing with their grandchildren, or spending leisure time in front of the TV, or things like that. But if you are a bird watcher, you continue to do the bird watching till your last days, even if you are 95 years age, 100 years of age. You tend to continue to be in the nature and learn a lot through the nature. And being in nature for a long time, you will also be very healthy. So this is the important truth of life that Dr. Salim Ali has said in one of his books. You might have seen his Fall of a Sparrow book, you might have read. And over 1,800 species that is found throughout the world, nearly about 1,200 plus species that is found in India alone was known to the world across. That is because of Dr. Salim Ali's research and his work in the field. So thanks to Dr. Salim Ali, even today I am using his book on birds, even for my bird watching and bird photography. So this is a great dedication for today's webinar. And friends, it gives me a lot of happiness to introduce my good friend from Odisha, Sri Avinash Khemka. In fact, whenever I go to Mangalajodi or Bitarkanika, I have to pass through Katak. And Katak is known not only for the great Mahanadi, but also for a great wildlife photographer and particularly bird photographer, Mr. Avinash Khemka. He is a very simple person. In fact, over a cup of coffee in his office, he showed me a few of his pictures because I was a little bit hurried to go to Bitarkanika. So he showed me a few of his pictures. By seeing those few number of images itself, I was really mesmerized with the technique that he is using, the quality of images that he has used in his photography this thing, and also the techniques using his drone cameras to take landscape of Mangalajodi. I think nobody has done this earlier. I think he's the only person who has shot the beautiful landscapes of Mangalajodi. When we all, as a wildlife photographers, we go to Mangalajodi, we tend to take only birds. But does anybody has seen Mangalajodi beauty from the air? But today it is opportunity for all of us to see and learn the important facts about Mangalajodi through the images, wonderful images of Avinash Khemka. So further introduction will be given by my friend Mr. Girish Mayachari. Over to you, Mr. Girish.
Thank you so much, Satish. Thank you so much. And a very good evening to all of you viewers. So today, the good fortune of introducing Mr. Kemka rests with me, and I'm really happy for this opportunity. So, in continuation with the Wildlife Week celebrations, we today we have amidst us Mr. Avinash Khemka. He's an industrialist from Cuttack. At heart, Mr. Avinash is a nature lover and loves solitude. All it takes is beauty for him to feel intoxicated by his own admission. Though he says photography is a byproduct of his love for nature, he is recognized as an eminent wildlife photographer throughout the world. Though through his not for profit organization Song of the Wild, Avinash has been doing stellar work to document the precious flora and fauna. Using photography as a medium, he is actively involved in not only showcasing precious flora and fauna, but he is also encouraging active engagement, collaborations, highlighting the biodiversity of ecosystems and is also a staunch advocate of the cause of conservation. It was in 2011 that a schoolmate of Avinash that he suggested that he buy a DSLR camera, and in 2012 he attended a basics of photography workshop. This marked the beginning of the journey in the world of photography for Avinash. His visit to Kamini right after the workshop reaffirmed his love for nature and solitude. He shoots birds, mammals, macros, landscapes, and people too. However, landscapes, forestscapes give him immense joy and happiness, as he confesses. Avinash has spent over 100 days in Mangalajodi and loves the experience of being alone in a boat and letting the sound of birds wash over him. Not wanting to restrict himself to the images of birds from Mangalajodi, he has experimented with drone photography to capture the beauty of Mangalajodi, just like Satish mentioned a few minutes earlier. He has done it in a way that has never been seen before. For his many exhibitions, the images are curated from a collection of over 10,000 images he has shot in Mangalajodi. He says school children asking for his photograph during one of his exhibitions is a moment that he'll cherish for a long time to come. After bringing out a coffee table book on Mangalajodi, Avinash plans to move on to a new place, probably Bhitarkanika, to continue his efforts in bringing awareness about such places and its inhabitants and wildlife conservation. Though this is a wildlife week celebration, ladies and gentlemen, today I'd also like to speak about another facet of Mr. Avinash. During the lockdown period, the sight of scores of migrant workers returning home on NH16 impacted him deeply. With the support of Cuttack police, he distributed meals and for 5 to 6 hours every single day. The New Indian Express in the article called him the Highway Messiah, and rightly so. On Independence Day, Mr. Avinash has launched the Amulya Jeevan Foundation. Through this not for profit NGO, he wants to extend a proactive helping hand towards living beings in distress. Be it human beings or members of the plant and animal kingdom. He wishes to contribute and give back to the society. So, ladies and gentlemen, as a part of the Wildlife Week celebrations, it's an honor and gives us immense pleasure to present to you Mr. Avinash Khemka, a man who does photography for the sheer joy of it and not to compete with fellow photographers. He will present to us the magical beauty of Mangalajodi and tell us about the unique conservation story of how poachers turned into protectors. So over to you, Mr. Avinash. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening, all of you. I'm delighted to be part of this unique event organized by YPS Bangalore. In fact, it's a pleasure to be in the company of such accomplished and expert wildlife and photographers, and a privilege to be giving a presentation on the place which I love the most, that is Mangalajodi. Mangalajodi, which is part of Chilika Lake in the state of Odisha. It's only 70 kilometers from Bhubaneswar. Let me introduce myself first. As Girish Mayachari has already said a lot about me, I'll speak in brief. I'm an industrialist by profession and by passion. I'm a seeker of solitude and admirer of beauty. So in 2011, I bought a DSLR on the insistence of a friend of mine from Bangalore. I started learning photography, went to Kabini, and that was a wow moment for me. Like being in natural surroundings, that gave me a kick. It stirred up my passion. And then it started, and I started going out once every month to different parts of India. particularly to Mangalajodi and Vittarkanika. Over a period of these many years, I have made more than 100 trips to Mangalajodi and must have spent more than 200 days over there. And when I started doing photography initially, like everyone else, I started shooting birds in Mangalajodi. But after some time, when I spent more and more time over there, I realized that Mangalajodi is not only about birds. There's a huge successful conservation story behind it. Maybe 20-25 years back, Mangalajodi was known for poaching of the winter migratory birds. Villagers of Mangalajodi used to poach those birds and supply the meat to the local dhabas and restaurants. One person of Tangi Chandpur, named Mr. Nandakishore Bhujbal, he realized that something needs to be done to save this place. He started a journey of convincing the villagers to stop poaching, and he converted them into protectors. But he also had to think about an alternative livelihood for the poor villagers because they were earning money out of poaching. So he trained them into boatmen and bird guides, tourist guides, so that they could help people when they came in search of birds and to enjoy that tourism time. And in this way, uh, the world's one of the most successful conservation stories started. I went to Mangalajodi with my friends and families and family, and I was awestruck by the habitat, by the quaintness of the village, by the sheer number of birds over there. And then I started going there again and again and again. I've done bird photography, I've done landscapes, something which was a huge challenge because it's a flat land, absolutely flat, and no contours over there. Then I did some village photography, and then ultimately I tried my hand at aerial photography via drones. So today the subject of my presentation is Mangalajodi, and the title is The Magic of Mangalajodi. So as you see over here, this is a painting I have got done by Basudev Pal Majumdar of Kolkata, of northern pintails, but the habitat is of Mangalajodi. So this is basically an illustrated map of Mangalajodi done by Rohan Chakravarti, a dear friend of mine. Mangalajodi is a tiny wetland of 10 square kilometers at the northeastern fringe of Chilika Lake in Odisha. It's home to around 20-25 species of resident birds and attracts more than 3 lakhs migratory birds of around 75 species in winters. The migration starts from September onwards. It continues till December, and the return migration starts in mid-February and it continues till March, April. And the birds that come in winters, they come from far off places like Europe, Siberia, Aral Sea, Caspian Sea, Mongolia, Central and Southeast Asia, and also from the Himalayas. And this is an aerial view of the village and also the wetlands of Mangalajodi, if you can see, with a rail line passing through. The Mangalajodi derives its name from the village. Actually, the folklore says that there are 2 temples of Ma Mangla in this village. And so Jodi means a pair of villages, temples of Ma Mangla. So Mangalajodi. And as I said, it's only 70 kilometers or 90 minutes drive from Bhubaneswar. This wetland is connected with Chilika Lake through 3 main water channels that cut through the reed beds. These channels act as waterways and are used by fishermen to travel to Chilika Lake for fishing. Apart from the main channels, there are numerous smaller, narrow channels crisscrossing the habitat. These channels are used by the local fishermen who do not go all the way to Chilika Lake to do fishing nearby. And these channels are also used by tourists, bird watchers, and bird photographers. And this habitat is covered with emergent vegetation and reeds consisting mainly of Typha augustata and Phragmites carca. And the water here is very shallow. The depth is, in rainy seasons, the depth is around 2 feet, 2.5 feet. In winters, it's 1.5 feet. In summer, it goes down further. And so the shallow depth attracts the birds in lakhs because it's very rich in food also. Fish, frogs, non-venomous snakes, insects, and the vegetation on which resident and migratory birds feed upon. The unique thing about Mangalajodi is that tourists, bird watchers, and bird photographers, they can go very near to the birds because there are in these smaller and bigger channels ply country boats which are non-motorized, which are operated by hand-owned boats. So these boats are smaller, they don't make any vibration or noise, so they don't disturb the birds, and people, they can enjoy the time in the wetland in absolute tranquility and in proximity with the birds with almost eye level and sometimes below eye level also, and without disturbing the birds. Now I will show you the beauty of the sunrise and sunset of Mangalajodi. It's mind-blowing. This is the land of one of the most spectacular sunrises and sunsets. The reddish orange yellow morning sun washes the sky in crepuscular hues and turns the waters of the wetland into liquid gold. Its beauty has to be seen to be believed. So this is sunrise in winters in January, okay? And look at the habitat and the colors. This is again very early in the morning. I was going to the boat jetty and I was walking down and suddenly I saw it was dark, actually dark. This is a early morning shot, and a fisherman was doing something in his boat. He was cleaning the nets, and I clicked this shot at that point of time. This is again a sunrise shot early in the morning with drama in the sky, lovely clouds lit up by the early morning sun rays. This is sunset. This is a boat jetty, and you can see the main channel and the smaller channels as well. And at the left side, you can see the setting sun. This is again just before sunset. It was a cloudy day over there, just before sunset. And if I am not wrong, this is during the monsoons. People normally go in the winters, but I go in summer, spring, winters, rainy season, autumn, in each season, almost every month. And this is very early in the morning. A fisherman is returning, if you can see, and the small image, and the big image is of a fisherman who is going for fishing very early in the morning. This is a local fisherman during sunrise. He's coming down the jetty to go for fishing. And this is the jetty, and this is sunset time. Boats are coming back. Some clouds in the sky creating drama. Very colorful. It's actually magical. This is a black-tailed godwit shot at say around 5 o'clock in the evening in January against the setting sun. The golden lights of the sun create this amazing play of colors and bouquet. Again, the sun is setting behind the small hills, and the birds, they are going back to the roosting places to spend the night. Now we come to the aerial view of Mangalajodi, something which I had never imagined before. It gives a totally different perspective, an impression of a surreal painted canvas. The interplay of stagnant water, layers of an oil-like substance secreted by the vegetation, water hyacinth, small grass and tall reeds, and the various shades of blue, green and ochre. These all create a stunning vista of colors and textures. This is July or August, uh, and the water looks blue because the stagnant water uh, and a lot of this some oil like substance gets secreted by this vegetation, which forms a layer on the water, and there's a pungent smell coming out because of the stagnant water, and a boat going through. And this is water, some greenish brown, brownish green vegetation, and this lovely green round leaves. uh, with the boatman, you can see the boatman with his utensils in the boat. So when before doing drone photography or aerial photography, I had never imagined that Mangalajodi has such a beautiful perspective. Look at this. What a habitat. And the birds are so privileged to be able to see the view. We only get to see if we do drone photography. The different depths of water and the different types of vegetation create this stunning frame. Again, see, in these images, you can see there are so many different types of vegetations. Every image is unique in itself. Uh, you get completely blown away by the habitat. Again, you can see the small grass and the tall reeds and the round leaves, and see the colors in the water because of that layer of oil-like substance. And when the boat goes through, because in monsoons, nobody, almost no one goes there, so the water is very stagnant. And the moment one boat goes through, it creates a trail which adds to the beauty. Now we come to a section where I showcase how people depend on fishing for their livelihood there. The residents of Mangalajodi depend primarily on fishing for their sustenance. And they do it in the age-old traditional methods also. And many fishermen go in motorboats to far-off areas in Chilika Lake also. So this is a early morning sunrise shot uh, near the jetty with these nets and these poles tied in the water. This local village fisherman trying his hand at fishing. I think this man is trying to stun the fishes by hitting the waters with a bamboo pole and then catching the fish. Again, this is an aerial shot of this local villager catching fish by the traditional method in the country boat with a fishing net. Again, during sunset, two fishermen on a boat fishing in the traditional way in the waters of the wetlands of Mangalajodi, in a place where there is clear water. Otherwise, the net will get entangled in the vegetation. Again, this is sunset. A fisherman returning after fishing, and you can see the vegetation creating magic in the waters along with the setting sun. This is again a very old and traditional way of catching fish in the wetlands and the grasslands. After selling off fresh fish, whatever remains, they dry it and they put salt on it so that it gets sort of pickled and it can stay good for a longer period of time. And in Odia language, they call it sukua, like pickle sort of. They can eat it at, it stays good for 3-4 months or whatever. Apart from the villagers, the people fishing in the wetlands of Mangalajodi, there are some others who compete with the people in fishing, and those are the birds. Because the waters are shallow, there's an abundance of fish, frogs, insects, and non-venomous snakes, and also vegetation, and it makes Mangalajodi a paradise for birds, both resident and migratory. And because photographers can go very near to the birds, they can take some dramatic shots of the birds catching fish or snakes or frogs. An egret with a fish in its beak. A pond heron just about to pluck a fish out of water. This image and the earlier image, this image has actually been clicked by my elder son Aditya Vardhan Khemka. He is now 17 years old, but when he clicked this image, he must have been 12 or 13 years old. And this image has been clicked by my younger son, Ashutosh Khemka. He is 15 years old now, and he must have been around, say, 10 years old when he clicked this image. During their vacations, they go along with me to Mangalajodi and Bhitarkanika. So during one of those trips, they have clicked these shots. Again, egret and whisker tern compete with each other for the catch. A whisker tern with a fish in its beak, rising above the waters, splashing water all over. The purple moorhen with some, this is a vegetation, some root or tuber or bulb of some vegetation. A purple heron with a non-venomous snake in its beak. And the variety of food available over there. As I said, fish of different shapes and sizes and species, and then frogs and many types of insects, and then non-venomous snakes and the different types of vegetation. These attract many species of birds, like around 25 resident species and around 75 migratory species. Again, an egret pulling out a fish from the water. This image, if I remember correctly, is also, this has been shot by my son. Yeah, the pond heron with a fish in its mouth. Again, a pond heron with too big a fish to swallow. A black-headed ibis having just swallowed a non-venomous snake. A pair of whiskered terns diving for a fish. One was lucky, another was not. This again has been clicked by my elder son, Aditya Vardhan Khemka. Villagers of Mangalajodi rear buffaloes for their livelihood. Chilika buffalo is an endemic species, and it's a very special species which is an integral part of the biodiversity and ecosystem of Mangalajodi. These bovines are unique as they are the only buffaloes in the world which graze on the vegetation that grows here in brackish water. and they also drink brackish water. Over ages, they have developed resilience to withstand the marshy environments and extreme weather conditions. The villagers do not have to spend much time, effort, and money on maintaining or on upkeep of these buffaloes. They leave them out in the open, and these buffaloes are so strong that they withstand harsh sunlight, rains, and winters and everything. And they're very immune to diseases. And these buffaloes, they keep the vegetation under control by grazing. And when they walk in the wetlands, they make trails for boats to ply. And by their walking action, they oxygenate the water, and they also provide dung for fish and insects to breed and feed upon. And when they move in the waters, they trample the waters and underlying vegetation, thereby unsettling the waters and bringing fish and insects which are deep in the vegetation, or they bring those fish and insects onto the surface for the birds to feed. So you will find in the frames that you will see just after the buffaloes, there will be birds hovering over, waiting for fish or insects to surface so that they can feed on them. So this is the road which leads to the jetty from the village, and on two different sides, because of two different depths of water, you can see the difference in the vegetation and resultant play of colors. And these black ant-like things, these are buffaloes. These buffaloes are coming back after having a ball of a time in the waters. They're coming back on the road to go back to the villages. And you see just below, just behind the buffalo, you can see the birds hovering above them. Again, you see there is a layer of oil-like substance floating on the surface of the water, and these buffaloes, uh, they break that layer when they go forward. And you can see on some of the buffaloes there are egrets sitting on the backs of the buffaloes, waiting for the fish and insects to surface so that they can have their fill. The owners of the herd of buffaloes, they are in a boat. So they leave the buffaloes, they bring them from the village to the jetty, and they simply leave them there. The entire day, the buffaloes, they keep on grazing in the wetlands. And when it's time to return, these owners, they come in a boat, they gather the buffaloes, and they take them back to the village. Again, you can see the vegetation, the layer of oil-like substance, and the colors of the water, the buffaloes moving from one place to another, and the birds hovering over them. So the vegetation, the birds, the fish, frog, snakes, the buffaloes, this is, they complement each other so well. Again, you can see uh, egrets sitting on the back of a few of the buffaloes, waiting for the waters to unsettle, fish and insects to surface on the water so that they can fish upon them. And see uh, the disturbance created by these buffaloes in the waters. It, you can see the dark colors amidst the light color water, and this helps in oxygenating and recharging the waters over there, which again leads to good health of the fish and frogs and insects. And also, when they eat, they they excrete, and the buffalo dung, it becomes the feed of the fish and the insects. And obviously the birds sitting on the backs or hovering over them. Now these buffaloes, after a day of grazing and drinking water, now they are preparing to go back to the villages, to the village. Now we come to the home team, which means the resident birds. There are around 20-25 resident species of birds who keep the wetlands active throughout the year. As the migratory birds return in March, April, the residents keep up the show for the next 6 months. And some of them, they undergo complete transformation, taking on their beautiful and colorful breeding plumage and indulging in breeding activity. And sometimes it becomes very noisy out there, particularly at night. A pond heron in breeding plumage looks so different in winters and very different in May, June, July. Purple moorhen against the green backdrop of reeds and grass. Cormorant drying its wings after diving in the waters for a catch. Normally, birds they secrete an oil-like substance which keeps their feathers oily and shiny and water repellent. Unfortunately, that's not the case with these cormorants. So they do not secrete that oil-like substance, so they have to dry their feathers in the sun. An Asian openbill, glossy ibis, which have become resident to this place. When the rays of the sun fall on its feathers, you can see the metallic colors shining. Again, a purple heron standing absolutely still, waiting for the fish to come or a snake to come in its reach so that it can strike at the right time. They stand like this, absolutely still, for say 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then they suddenly strike when a catch comes near or within their reach. So the bronze-winged jacana, see the metallic colors on its neck and on its wings. Spot-billed duck, Brahmini kite, Now we come to the section showing images of the migratory birds. It starts in end September or October, and migration time is a party time in the marshes of Mangalajodi. The annual frenzy takes off with flocks of birds from far off lands, filling the orange dusk skies and carrying the news of coming spring. So the migration starts in end September or October, and the birds keep coming in till say December. And the return migration, it starts in February and it goes on till end March or April. So this is a northern pintail duck. This is the hero of Mangalajodi, the fastest animal in the world, the peregrine falcon. The recorded speed of its dive is around say 350 miles per hour. And the moment it flies above a flock of birds, all the birds they suddenly fly off to save themselves from the attack. And that's something to be experienced, to be understood. Such a fast bird, very fast, very deadly. and territorial fight between two black-tailed godwits. Rough, and it's late winters, maybe it's February. Yeah, see, the plumage has started changing, but this bird, rough, the transformation that it undergoes from non-breeding plumage to breeding plumage is one of the most dramatic amongst all the birds in the world. If we keep an image of a ruff in non-breeding plumage and a ruff in breeding plumage side by side, it will be very difficult to realize that it is the same species of bird. Wood sandpiper, ruddy shelduck. Again, it has been shot in late March, I believe. So you can see the black band around its neck and the color of the coat or the feathers becoming more uh, brownish orange. In January, it will be less colorful and the band will be almost invisible. And this is one of my favorite birds, the blue throat. Very small bird, it comes from a very far off place. And it's very difficult to get a clean shot of this bird because it forages on the ground amongst the grass. And I remember this shot. I I kept lying down in a place where people used to go and urinate. I could feel the stench of human urine in the air, but I completely took my mind off that stench and focused on this bird, which was continuously hopping around. And I waited patiently with my camera and lens aimed at this bird, resting on a beanbag. I lying down on the ground. So I was lying down there for an hour or so. So after many days, I got one clean shot when it came on a small piece of rock. Again, slaty breasted rail, very difficult to shoot out in the open with a clean background. They always try to be inside the vegetation, which protects them from predators. They very rarely come out. This bird too comes out very rarely out in the open. northern shoveler, black winged stilt, see the Chinese pond heron, which came one year, and this is the signature shot of Mangalajodi, a wader taking off from the water, splashing the waters all around. After shooting in the wetlands, I thought of going to the village, going to the paddy fields around. And it was monsoon time. There was not much activity in the wetlands because there were only resident birds over there, which we had already shot. And because of the paddy cultivation, the the paddy fields were absolutely verdant green. And then and when I shot uh, from above, I could see an amazing patterns, vibrant colors, patchworks, winding river, a road bisecting it, a small pond with a temple over there, surrounded by trees. So I had never realized that there is a water body with stagnant water and algae inside, surrounded by all the trees. The, Suddenly we realized this when I was operating the drone, and see the patterns of the paddy fields, the colors, and this small narrow rivulet winding through the paddy fields. When we are at ground level, we never realize the fact that this rivulet winds through the paddy fields in such a beautiful pattern. There's an interplay of unkempt fields and then some ponds used for uh, rearing fish and prawns. Again, the rivulet winding through the paddy fields with trees on both sides of the rivulet. This is the road from Chandpur to Mangalajodi village with paddy fields on both sides. Again, there's another pond with a temple in between the paddy fields. Now we come to the village life of Mangalajodi. It's a small, quaint, simple village. When you go to the village, you feel as you have gone 50 years back. Simple people, unaffected by modern distractions, children playing old games, ladies sitting outside their homes, drying fish, chit chatting with each other, or singing Odia village songs or songs. Men mending their fishing net, making boats, making bamboo baskets. So this is around say November, December harvest time, and they still use these bullock carts to transport the harvested paddy from the fields to their homes. And there's a temple and a huge tree in front of the temple, and this priest, see, uh, along with praying inside the temple, is also offering his obeisance and putting in incense stick in front of the tree, considering the tree also to be a form of God. And this is a typical home of a fisherman. They have stocked up on dry leaves. They use it as fuel to cook food. And you can see the tulsi plant on the tulsi choda, that small brickwork or the stand on which tulsi is planted is called tulsi choda in Odisha. And they color their walls in very vibrant and bright colors. Again, see the colors on the wall. And when they have a wedding at the home, they put up the name of the wedding and the icon of Lord Jagannath with a peacock feather, because Lord Jagannath is believed to be Lord Krishna. And this guy is sitting and mending his net. Again, a fisherman's home with dried leaves stocked up, nets on one side. The color, you have to see the village. You have to meet these simple people of the village called Mangalajodi, and you have to see the bright colored walls of their homes. This lady pulling out water from an open well with again such a beautiful tulsi chora. two friends talking with each other through a window. See the village life over here. These are also a type of net made out of bamboo sticks, and they are put in the waters so that water flows through it, but the fish doesn't flow, the fish doesn't pass through the space between the bamboo sticks, and the fish gets trapped. And a lady is combing the hair of a granddaughter with a kid sitting and picking his nose. Again, a bullock cart with the harvested paddy going to its destination. Now we come to a section where I will show you some black and white images. Now we come to the water and vegetation part. we come to a section where photography has been done at the dead of night, so between say 9 p.m. and 4 a.m. On a moonlit night, full moon night. So this is a long exposure shot. It was shot in pitch darkness. It was absolutely dark with only the moonlight coming in and some street lights in the farm behind the trees coming in. So it was a 30-second shot. I had to put up the tripod, compose, focus, do everything in the darkness. And you can see the moonlight falling on the boats. This is the iconic tree of Mangalajodi, which you find on the left side as you drive down to from Chandpur to Mangalajodi, between the paddy fields. When you drive down, it's on the left side. In winters, it sheds its leaves, stands alone amidst the paddy fields. And on a full moon night, you can see the star trails also, because it's a long exposure shot. In this shot, again, you can see the star trails because it's a long exposure shot. And it was a windless night. The trees were absolutely still. So you can see, in spite of a long exposure shot, the trees are not blurry. And these white spots are the egrets roosting on the trees. And apart from the moonlight, it was dark, actually dark. Because of the long exposure, the image is so well lit up. So I was talking about the conservation story. Mangalajodi's turnaround story, from bird poachers' den to a protected bird paradise, is one of the greatest conservation stories of the world. The villagers of Mangalajodi used to poach birds and sell them to earn a livelihood. They used to sell them to the local dhabas and restaurants. In the mid-90s, it was the persistent efforts of one concerned person named Nandakishore Bhujwal of Tangi, Chandpur, which makes this turnaround story so exemplary. He persuaded the villagers to stop killing the birds and train them into tourist guides, boatmen, and bird guides, gave them bird books, manuals, and binoculars, thus converting them from bird poachers to bird protectors. Over a period of time, more NGOs pitched in, and with the support of the government, this initiative turned into a movement. Now, Mangalajodi has turned into the most prominent birding hotspot of Odisha and one of the most prominent birding hotspots of India. So, we have recreated this event when Mr. Nanda Kishore Bhujbal, he took the poachers into the waters of the wetland and made them take a vow not to kill birds henceforth. People used to make boats for fishing, but when tourists started coming in, poaching stopped, and the demand for boats also increased. More and more people got engaged in boat making. And this is a very traditional way, age old way of boat making, you can see. It's made almost entirely by hand with hand tools. And in this frame, you can see a father passing on the skills of navigating the waters in a boat and fishing to his son. And now tourists throng the wetlands to behold the habitat and the birds, thus providing alternate source of livelihood to the villagers. Not only the boatmen, the bird guides, but also people putting up shops over there. People have put up small resorts, their homestays over there. There are shops which sell eatables. So now people earn their livelihood in different ways through the tourists, bird watchers, and bird photographers coming in. You can see a bird watcher, bird photographer, and the person holding a long lens. You can see in the front. She is a lady. She is Panchami Manu Ukil from Bhubaneswar, uh, who is my partner, uh, who is my court trustee in Song of the Wild Trust, and she is an avid bird watcher and a bird photographer also. She has contributed hugely to bringing Mangalajodi to people's attention for its conservation also. She has done a lot for the people over there in her personal capacity. And you can see the residents of the village making different types of baskets out of bamboo. And after the poaching stopped, the number of migratory birds visiting the wetlands in winters has increased dramatically. And now you can see a harmonious coexistence between human beings, buffaloes, birds, So this chapter brings me to the iconic tree, the wisdom tree which stands alone amidst the paddy fields on the way from Tangi Chandpur to Mangalajodi. It's a milestone, it's a reminder. It depicts the steely resolve of Nandkishore Bhujbal in stopping poaching in the place. So this is the wisdom tree. The same tree from a different angle on a different day at a different time. So Mangalajodi sort of ignited the passion in me. It's it's so near to Cuttack. It's a 2 hours drive from Cuttack, 1.5 hours drive from Bhubaneswar, and the place is so peaceful. It's such a beautiful place. When I am in the waters of the wetlands on a boat, I do not want to come back actually. If I would not have had my business and family responsibilities, I would have settled down in Mangalajodi, spent my entire life over there. In the last 8 years, I must have paid more than 100 visits to the place and have stayed more than 200 nights over there. And I spent nights in absolute hot and humid climate, whether in May, June, July, August. It's very unbearable till September also. Very hot and very humid. But it gives a very different habitat, uh, very different perspective. And the breeding plumage of the birds, the breeding activity. I and Panchami Manu Ukil, because we always, when we talk to people outside Orissa and surprisingly to people within Orissa and even residents of Bhubaneswar, we got to understand that many of them don't know about Mangalajodi. They don't know about the existence of a place like Mangalajodi, the importance of the place, the unique conservation story of the place. And then we decided to have an exhibition of my images in Bhubaneswar in Lalit Kala Academy Regional Center from 7th to 13th of December 2018. It coincided with the Hockey World Cup, which was held in Bhubaneswar at that time. And the Honorable Chief Minister of Odisha, Shri Naveen Patnaik, was kind enough to spare some valuable time out of his very busy schedule and inaugurate the exhibition. The exhibition was sponsored by Department of Tourism, Government of Odisha, and Department of Post and Telegram released a special cover, an envelope on this occasion. Around 83 images or 86 images were on display in the exhibition hall of Lalit Kala Academy, and 25 images were not displayed, they were kept for an auction. We conducted the first ever auction of wildlife images in India in Bhubaneswar during that exhibition. All the expenses were done by us on a personal level, and all the proceeds of the auction and the sale of images from the display also, all the proceeds went to Song of the Wild Trust. So this is the exhibition hall with the photo frames and the photography, some of my photography equipment on display. Honorable Chief Minister of Odisha, Sri Naveen Patnaik, Honorable Minister of Tourism and Culture, Sri Ashok Panda, Chief Postmaster General, Odisha Circle, Dr. Santosh Kumar Kamila, Honorable Secretary Tourism and Sports, Sri Vishal Dev, Sri Vikram Grewal, author and bird expert, Panchami Manu Kil, and me on the stage, and Honorable Chief Minister releasing the exhibition catalog. Release of special cover, the postal envelope by Honorable Chief Minister of Odisha in the presence of all of them, and presenting a painting of blue throat done by Basudev Pal Majumdar to the Honorable Chief Minister of Odisha. And Honorable Chief Minister inside the exhibition hall, looking at the photo frames. We had brought students from around 12 or more than that schools to the exhibition, and also inmates of 4 orphanages from Bhubaneswar, Cuttack, because in Song of the Wild, our aim is to create awareness in the minds of the future generation about nature, habitat, wildlife, and the importance of its conservation. So these are inmates of one of the orphanages. We took them from the orphanage because they are a bit underprivileged. We took them to Nandan Kanan Zoo first. They had a picnic, they had a lunch, and after that, in the second half, they came to the exhibition and they returned by evening. Again, students of a school. This is the moment where a small kid asked me for an autograph. I'll never forget this. So this is when we thought of giving back to nature. We have derived so much happiness, so much pleasure out of the habitat and wildlife of Mangalajodi, that we thought of, me and Panchami Manu Ukil, we thought of giving it back. So we formed a trust, a foundation called Song of the Wild. This is the logo of Song of the Wild. This logo has been created and designed by us. Us means me and Panchami Manokil, and you can see the aperture of a camera with the 7 colors of the spectrum, and out of the camera comes nature in the shape of flowers and leaves, song, birds, and some written text, that's content, and love for nature, habitat, and wildlife. Thank you very much. This is the end of my presentation. I hope you liked it.
Wow, amazing, Avinashji. It was an amazing journey to say the least. I would on I would dare say, on behalf of all of us who are here watching this today, definitely appreciate what you have taken us through, at least the journey of your passionate project that you have. It goes without saying. I think I speak for everybody, each of the visitors that we have here across both platforms. It was mesmerizing and it was amazing. Absolutely. No question about that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for your kind words of appreciation.
Okay, I think it's about time that you should have a glass of water. So, yeah, we've been through this, so I think you should. But in the meantime, we are compiling the questions that are coming. Obviously, the compliments have been flowing incessantly, and I don't think we need to. You can go through it yourself probably a bit later, but I think we'll probably get into the small part of the question and answer sessions. I saw some of them which are very generic in nature. We'll probably address the one that actually have a significant meaning. Then what gear do you use? We don't want to. We know that. We will know that. But probably some of the deeper questions that we have. Nandan, if you can do the honors, please. I'll just answer this question, Avinashji. Vinod Kumar, there are quite a few tutorials and talks available on the YPS channels, both Facebook and YouTube, on night photography, astrophotography, evening, dusk, and those kinds of things. Look them up. We'll probably have a different session on that specifically. I think we can address that a bit later, if you don't mind. So, thank you. Next question, Nandan. Okay, this is a relevant one.
I use AI Phantom 4 Pro.
Well, that's a big one. Okay, it's a big one. Okay, the next question related to that. How do you apply permission? Do you register with the local police, or probably because you're there, they let you do whatever you want to do?
No, our drone is registered as per law, first of all. Secondly, if you would have observed, I have used the drone in non-migration season when the number of birds is minimal. So, and that too in areas where there are almost no birds,
Hmm.
so that I do not disturb the birds in any manner.
Okay. Okay. I mean, it makes sense because I do fly drones as well. So the biggest challenge that you have, is notifying the local authorities and make sure that you don't get caught up in a soup. And especially in an eco-sensitive area like Mangalajodi, you have to be very cognizant of how you fly, when you fly, how high you fly, and the patterns of birds as well. Absolutely right. And the
So
next
the
question from, sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
drone has been used only in July, August, September.
Oh, very nice. So, for people who know this is a very significant, information. Please make sure that if you do fly it responsibly and fly it in the right time of the year. Ajit Hulgol has a question. I think I'll answer this for you. You can on a Phantom 4 you can mount your own camera, or you can use DJI's camera. But it predominantly depends on what kind of resolution that you want to take. So we will, lots of drone questions, Avinash. While
So because
shooting through a drone, sorry.
So because I was shooting in July, August, September only resident birds were there. There were no migratory birds. So the number of birds was very less. And that too, I used to identify the place where there were almost no birds. So
Okay.
that my photography activity would not disturb any birds in any manner.
True, absolutely true. I mean, that is spoken like a true conservationist and an observer of wildlife. No question about that. Next question. Kashi asks, do you stay at one place for the birds to come, or you roam all around?
No, I keep roaming around in the boat. Many times I walk on the jetty, on the road. Uh, so that way, the more time you spend there, the more opportunity you get to click images.
Yeah, true. By the way, on that subject, I mean, we all know Chilika Lake is very huge. So, especially the Mangalajodi area, if you were to traverse on the water, what kind of square acreage do you think that you traverse in a typical day? If you want to be on the water the whole day.
See, there are two sessions for photography in Mangalajodi, morning and afternoon sessions. Each session is for 3 to 4 hours. The boatman charges say 1,000 to 1,500 rupees for the boat plus boatman plus boat guide
Okay.
for each session. Normally, I go in very early. I go in when it is absolutely dark. I do some night photography. I do very early mornings, say time lapses and everything. And then I also get into the boat very early and there till the light is good. Same in the afternoon also. And I keep moving around in different places. That's they say that Mangalajodi is actually a 10 square kilometer area. But if I am going around, I must be going around in say 300-400 acres area only,
Okay.
or 400 acres area in the channels.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Makes sense. How close? Prakasha Rao Mokarala says, how close do you get to the birds? Or
You
is it just
can
go?
get very close to the birds. You can get very close to the birds because you are in a country boat. It's a non-motorized boat. 3 people in a boat. In that also, what I do, I take the smallest possible boat, and I
Mm.
ask the boat owner to remove the hood so that the form factor is as small as possible.
So the
And
least amount of wind resistance, basically, if there is any.
the birds also will see the form if there is a hood. And
Okay.
I
Okay.
ask them, normally the boatman, sometimes he stands up to over the boat with a bamboo, push it with a bamboo pole. And that bamboo pole is very tall.
Correct.
So I
Correct.
ask him to take a smaller bamboo pole so that
So these
we do
so
not
these are
disturb the
sorry, these are flat bottom boats, I assume, right?
yeah, flat bottom.
Okay. Murali asks, such a marvelous place and fantastic pictures. You mentioned that we can get very close to birds. Focal lengths that you prefer for shooting birds.
For birds, you need 400 to 600 mm. Many a times I also use a TC on a 600 mm, which makes it 850 mm.
Okay.
But most of the times 400 mm to 600 mm.
Okay. Now is a good time to you talk about the type of gear that you use and the number of lenses you do, Avinash. I think that would serve the purpose here for everybody.
When I go in a boat, I take the smallest possible boat without a hood, and I do not sit on the plank fitted on the boat. I sit at the bottom of the boat so that I'm very low, and the center of gravity is also very low, so that stability is there. I normally carry 5 camera bodies and 6 lenses with me. I am a Nikon user, a Nikon D4S with a 600 and TC separately if required. Nikon D4 with a 200-400, Nikon D850 with a 70-200,
Yeah.
another D850 with a 2470, another D850 with a 1424, and one extra lens 1635, three bean bags, and a Gizzo tripod. Most of the time I do not use a tripod. I use handheld or rest the long lens on the rim of the boat, because if I put a bean bag or a tripod, the camera goes up.
Correct.
So
Correct.
I want to go as low as possible. And if I want to go further low, I tilt myself on one side so that the boat tilts, and I go further low, almost to water level.
Okay. You must have all those equipment insured, I suppose. You know, yeah, I think that's quite a handful of bodies and lenses. But yeah, managing them and taking pictures is also an effort that you have mastered. Looks like, yeah. Dave Roy asks, how do you manage to take such beautiful eye level? See, again, what you just answered. Please go ahead and answer that if you want to again.
So I sit at the bottom of the boat. I rarely use a tripod or a bean bag. I rest the lens on the rim of the boat, and if I want to, I go very low, and if I want to go further low, I tilt my body so that the boat tilts on one side. So my lens bottom, it's only 1 or 2 inches above water.
Okay. Your points on the safety aspects for yourself when you go as part of groups and gear that you take with you.
Odisha as a whole is very safe. Bhubaneswar is very safe. Mangalajodi is very safe. Never ever has any incident happened of somebody taking away the equipment or harassing any tourist or bird watcher or bird photographer. Only thing to take care of is to take care of your equipment in the boat.
Okay.
1 or 2 incidents have happened where, due to the carelessness of the bird photographer,
Hmm.
the camera equipment has gone into the waters.
Okay.
If you are reasonably careful, nothing will happen.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. And then this I see a lot of questions that came up. Do you conduct workshops at Mangalajodi? If you have not started, it's about time to start.
Yeah, uh, this is one of the thoughts behind
Song of the Wild.
Song of the Wild Trust also. So we are open to conducting workshops there, primarily for the future generation, the school students, college students, and but also for anyone who is interested.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. That will be great. Chandru asks a question. Do you have any? Okay, I think he's made a typo there. It should have been groom. So the question that you answered now is a good opening into that. So go ahead. Next question, Nandan.
No, I will add something over there
Please,
for
please,
Mr.
please.
S. We also want to have printed books and printed booklets. Like, we will go to different schools regularly, give a audio video presentation on Mangalajodi, distribute the booklets, and announce one competition. And after a month, there will be a competition, and there will be winners. Prizes will be given, and the students will be taken to Mangalajodi.
Okay. Okay.
So we'll do it in different schools.
That's a very nice initiative. I think that makes sense because it brings a sense of learning. Number one, competition. Number two, and third, the capability of participating in a beautiful event such as that. Yep. Okay. Any next question, Nandan? Okay. What are the challenges you face during photography during birding seasons?
The only challenge I faced during migration season is too many people coming in.
Okay.
So I tend to go during weekdays only. I never go on weekends, Saturdays, Sundays. And that too, I do not go during the 25th December to 2nd of January. I go on days when there is a possibility of less people coming there. So that's the only challenge. And another challenge is with the wobbly boat. It's not very wobbly. Uh, After one session, a person can have a feel of the boat and how to handle the equipment.
Okay. Okay. If we do not have any more questions, you can, what we do, okay, hold on 1 second. So I think we've done with the question and answers, Avinash ji. I think you have a small announcement to make on the prize aspect. If you don't mind doing that, that will be nice.
It's a pleasure for me, privilege. So the second prize in the bird photography contest organized by YPS goes to Mr. Ananta Murthy from Bangalore. Second place, bird section. It's an Indian eagle owl in flight. Congratulations to Mr. Ananta Murthy, and thanks to YPS for conducting the contest. And this is the image.
Go ahead, Avinash. Show the picture, please. I think we'll
So
get that
this
up.
is
We'll get
the
that up.
announcement, and this is the image which won the second prize. Yeah, this is the image.
So congratulations, Anant. We know you are a wildlife photographer, and this reiterates and buttresses the fact that you are a wonderful, amazing, award-winning photographer. Congratulations once again, Anant. Kudos to you. As the last part of our program today, Avinashi, we would like to thank you first of all for having spent this time with us. Your overall approach to educate us more than anything else about conservation, about the care and then the concern that you have for an environment which is close to you is absolutely astounding. And it all goes to show that in spite of all the day-to-day pressures and the day-to-day rigmaroles that all of us have, it just goes to show that you don't have to be a photographer to enjoy Mangalajodi, right? We are all photographers here, that is the case, but you don't have to. You can go there for learning how to give back. You can go there to learn what conservation is all about. You can go there to talk, understand reclamation. And last but not least, I think this is a story of redemption, the way I see it.
Yeah,
When I say redemption, I'm talking about the redemption of the human race. More,
yeah.
and this story has been amazing. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts that you have taken us through this journey in a beautiful way. Okay, we could
Sir,
not have been happier for for today's guest more than you. Thank you very much.
sir, it's a pleasure, privilege for me to be able to be a part of this program conducted by YPS. And Mangalajodi is very close to my heart. So, giving a presentation on Mangalajodi, it is stirring up my passion once again, giving me goosebumps. Thank you very much for giving me
Appreciate that,
the
sir.
opportunity.
Appreciate that, sir. Before we sign off, couple of announcement. Tomorrow we will have Mr. Girish Gowda, who is one of us, who's going to talk about the macro world of Agumbe. You please join us at 5:30 tomorrow evening to experience some of Girish's amazing insights, his images, of course, and the fact that he's a naturalist who's going to walk us through the amazing macro world of Agumbe. And to be remiss to talk about the next Sunday's program. Again, we have one of our very own from Karnataka, especially Dharwad, a fellow Fuji shooter, Mr. Ashok Mansoor, who will treat us to a set of visual stories. The mesmerizing photographs that he has taken throughout the world. So stay tuned for both of these programs, Girish Gowda tomorrow and Ashok Mansoor on the 11th of October, Sunday evening at 5:30. So having said that, once again, Avinash Ji, thank you so very much on behalf of YPS and our entire audience that have been watching us, without giving up for the last 2 hours. Thank you very much, and God bless you, and thank you so much. Good night, everybody. Shubharatri.
Thank you very much, sir. Namaskara.
Avinash ji, you can just hold on. We will end the broadcast and we will go backstage.